Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Speak the Truth podcast. As always, I'm your host, Matt Tardio. We've got a lot going on today over inside of the Middle East. There's a lot of moving pieces, and I've got a feeling we're going to have a lot of developments. Last night on the show, I told you guys that it has been rumored and or suspected that the United States is going to strike Iran on Wednesday. That's because it's the 47th anniversary of the regime, and we have Trump, that's number 47 as well, president number 47. We've got J.D. Vance currently flying over into Azerbaijan. But the biggest news is that it does, in fact, appear that Iran has delivered its answer on the peace negotiations. Now, yesterday, I told you guys that there was nothing scheduled, right? We've been hearing that future negotiations are scheduled between the United States and Iran, and it doesn't appear that they really had been. Instead, what ended up happening today was we ended up getting an answer delivered from Tehran. And then after we get rumors of this answer being delivered from Tehran, all of a sudden crap starts exploding over inside of Iran. So what is going on? Are we actually striking them? I'm going to have those answers for you, along with much more that's actually coming up. And it fits into easily my assessment from yesterday that I talked to you guys about. Now, one of the first things that actually took off and happened today was Benjamin Netanyahu left and took off for the United States. He's scheduled to fly into the Washington, D.C., and he's going to go meet up with Donald Trump at the White House. They're supposed to be talking about Iran, and they're supposed to be talking about Gaza and the way forward over inside of Gaza. With that being said, here is what Bibi said on his way out the door.
אני יוצא עכשיו לארצות הברית לנסיעה השביעית שלי להיפגש עם הנשיא טראמפ מאז שהוא נבחר בקדנציה השנייה. זה כמובן לא כולל את הביקור הבלתי נשכח שלו בישראל והנאום שלו בכנסת. אני חושב שהדברים האלה משקפים את הקרבה הייחודית והיחסים באמת היוצא הדופן שיש לנו עם ארצות הברית, לי אישית עם הנשיא ולמדינת ישראל עם ארצות הברית, דבר שלא היה כמוהו בתולדותינו. בנסיעה הזאת אנחנו נדון בשורה של נושאים, עזה, האזור, אבל כמובן בראש ובראשונה במשא ומתן עם איראן. אני אציג בפני הנשיא את התפיסות שלנו לגבי העקרונות במשא ומתן, העקרונות החשובים. ובעיניי הם עקרונות חשובים לא רק לישראל, אלא לכל מי שבעולם רוצה שלום וביטחון במזרח התיכון. תודה רבה.
Interesting. So he says that he's going to be presenting to Donald Trump his outlook on what he thinks needs to be going down in the Middle East. And of course, he's talking about Iran and what they should and shouldn't be allowed to do. On his way out, Mike Huckabee followed him out the door. And the reporters stopped and they asked Mike Huckabee, and I'd play the clip for you, but it's kind of hard to hear the question. I had to go back over it dozens of times. They asked Mike Huckabee, that's the U.S. ambassador to Israel, whether or not the United States and Israel were basically in lockstep and we had the same views towards Iran. Mike Huckabee said, as far as I know, we do. That means the ballistic missile program inside of Iran is one of the things that those rumors and the negotiations are true. The United States wants to put a cap on Iran's ballistic missile program. It also means that they want to put a cap on uranium enrichment and, of course, no nukes. Plus, Iran's got to stop funding terror organizations around the Middle East. Now, even if you think those first three, all right, are going to be acceptable to Tehran, which they won't be, the very last one, which is stopping the funding of terror organizations such as Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis, or Ansar Allah down inside Yemen, I just don't see Iran coming to the negotiation table on it. They're going to continue to do shady things. Now, that's Bibi's stance of where he sat. But I got to bring this up to you guys. Before I do that, let me get in some of these super chats here. I got to thank some of y'all, man, because we've got Pathcoin First coming in, gifting out 20 Speak the Truth memberships. Thank you very much, sir. Greatly appreciate that. Fox McLeod, pants checking Matt while he's in court is crazy work. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Jay Martin coming in, gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships, along with Incog Faraday, man, and Y1. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you very much for your donation. All right, let's talk about it. Who is this guy and why is he here? Who is he meeting up with? Well, what you are looking at is the Supreme National Security Council, Iranian secretary. So he's the Iranian secretary of the Supreme National Security Council, Ali Larijani. Probably screwed up his name. And sitting on that couch right there, you guys can see, appears to be a letter. And that letter is very important because what's contained in that letter is what is going to, in my opinion, determine the future of the Middle East. And you know, that's what's in there because what's his dang name? Mehdi Hassan actually got pissed off. Well, he didn't get pissed off. He tried to call me a liar in my tweet. So to me, that screams that, yeah, I'm probably correct on this. All right. But allegedly, according to Iranian state media, that Iran had delivered its stance within that letter. Now, it didn't state who the letter came from. It didn't state whether or not this was from, the Ayatollah or whoever, but let's be honest about who makes the calls over there. And so he's meeting up with the Omani foreign minister, which is where they held the peace talks, alleged peace talks, right? Where the United States and Israel made their stance pretty clear on the four things I just stated. And here we have their answer. Now, moments ago, right before I ended up hitting the play button over here, record or stream, I don't even know what the hell you want to call it, rumors started to circulate of exactly what that letter said. And allegedly, all it says is the ball is now in Trump's court. That's it. Now, if that's the case, that their answer back from Tehran is the ball is in Trump's court, that lets us know exactly where they are in the negotiation process. Iranian state media had already stated, citing Iranian officials, that Iran was not going to bend when it came to uranium enrichment. It's not going to bend funding foreign terror organizations. It's not going to even bend capping off their ballistic missile program. And Benjamin Netanyahu right now is on his way to the United States. And I thought he likely was going to be on his way because they knew this letter with the answers was going to be delivered. And if that's the case, we're going to have Trump and Netanyahu in the White House in just a couple hours, both going over and discussing this. And we have U.S. troops that are staged in and around the entire region. But there's more than that that's going on. Jay Martinez came and gifted out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Thank you, sir. Incog Faraday, thank you as well, man. You guys are just being generous this morning. Holy freaking cow. You guys are just dropping them like they're hot. John Wilson's in the house as well, gifting out 20 Speak the Truth memberships. Man, if your name's not green today, I don't even know what to tell you. Whew, man, you guys are just crushing them today. Thank you guys very much for all those gifted memberships. Always means the most to me. I appreciate you guys every single time. Every donation absolutely means the world to me. So thank you guys very much for doing that. Here we go. Now, because they ended up dropping this letter off today, because we have Bibi that's traveling to the United States, because we have a massive buildup of U.S. forces throughout the region, and also something I brought up last night, freaking Royal Air Force, like the dang UK, ended up showing up in town the other day as well. It's pretty apparent to me at this point that it looks like we are about to have imminent freaking attacks on Iran. It's getting very dang close. John Wilson, man, you're just going freaking nuts gifting out those 50 Speak the Truth memberships, brother. Thank you very much, man. VP Vance, he was over in, I believe it was Armenia, securing, peace between us and Armenia, and they bought some drones off of us. VP Vance made a statement on it. Not really that important. What's actually important is he's now on his way over to Azerbaijan. So VP Vance went from Armenia and he's going to Azerbaijan. And as you can tell from the map, I know a lot of you guys are not geopolitically sound or, very good map experts, but he's on his way to Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan shares the northern border with Iran. They are also not the most friendly towards Russia. And as you guys know, Iran and Russia have been very good friends. So again, we have what appears to be another step in getting things moving down the pipeline, which is going to be likely, all right, I don't even want to say the rumor, but what the speculation is circulating is that VP Vance is going into Azerbaijan to secure U.S. military utilizing their airspace in order to attack Iran. That's pretty freaking wild. And I'm going to show you guys something on the map here in a little bit that's going to make you guys go, I see some of you guys telling me to pin my link for my, up in the chat, my legal defense fund. I would be happy to do that. I appreciate every single one of you guys that are like donating that. It seriously means the world to me that you guys are doing that and that you guys are pushing me to do that on a daily basis, because honestly, I tend to forget and I just don't do it. So let me see if I can grab it real quick as I go through this. And it is not actually opening up. Maybe it will. Let's see here. Nope, that's not there. Here it is. So, yeah, if you guys do want to donate to that, there is the link for my legal defense fund. I appreciate it. So far, we've raised about $8,000, a little over $8,000 actually. Ended up paying out $22K last week, and it's only going to go up. Just FYI, like I'm sure that $22K is going to get chewed through like it's nobody's business. So if you'd like to help me out with that, I greatly appreciate it. Again, got meetings with attorneys today, so hopefully I'm able to have some more statements coming out for you guys later on today. But yeah, that $5.3 million lawsuit for stupidity. Yeah, it's getting old, man. So yeah, we'll go over that as soon as I get the go ahead to be able to do that with you guys. So VP Vance hanging out in Azerbaijan. Going and again, speculation that that's what we're going to use in order to attack them. Now, with all of that being said, overnight, right, as all of this is going down, we already, like, you got to picture in the Iranian mindset that they likely already had their answer that had been issued. It's already filled out. They end up, jumping on the airplane, sending it over to Oman to drop it off. We've got Benjamin Netanyahu on his way over to the United States. And Iranian state media releases this video threatening U.S. forces overnight. You guys get the idea, right? If Iran's saying the ball's in Trump's court and they have their state media pumping out freaking, and they always do this crap, man. Footage like this being threatening towards the United States of America, it's pretty clear to me, very, very clear to me, that this situation right here is about to escalate, and it's going to escalate hard. Now, allegedly, the U.S. forces that are operating over in the Middle East region have been told to stay pretty far away from Iran, but just to maintain kind of like their distance, maintain their standoff, everything else. Now, they also raised the Iranian flag over the Imam Reza shrine in Mashhad in order to mark the, what do you want to call it, the 47th anniversary of the regime. And I'll show you guys that here in a minute. For those of you guys that don't know, and we're going to talk about why I have that soccer field pinned in a minute over in the middle of Tehran, but Mashhad's all the way over in the eastern portion of the country. And it's kind of a, what is it? The IRGC headquarters-ish is over there for the Air Force. And this is the video. I can't do it. I can't do the music. I can't do the squiggly music. This is the video of them flying that flag along with producing that rhetoric, putting all that up in order to celebrate, the coming of everything. Additionally, a bunch of the protesters that got arrested over inside of Iran, it is now rumored that those protesters were told basically that they'll commute their sentence if they take place in the parade tomorrow in commemoration of the 47th anniversary. And then I ended up actually seeing a legal video, which I'm not going to play for you guys, that appears to be coming out of an Iranian court where they're saying absolutely not. They're not going to get that. They're all going to end up being punished. So I guess we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. And the families are hurting. Now, this is the important part, which is Tehran exploding. Why Tehran's exploding right now is beyond me. There's reports of 2 different explosions in Tehran, and there is another report of an explosion down in the south, which I'm going to show you guys. It's over near the ports that we had the massive explosion before. The one that I heard, and you guys are going to hear it on video. Hopefully I put it in the stack. The one that you're going to hear is going to be very, very light in distance in the background, but this is the aftermath. And I believe that there's actually 2 different buildings that have been destroyed. Right. One, there is a power plant that's over here, and it's being said that one of the cooling towers is on fire to the power plant. All right. 2, there is a building that is just around the corner that I got told got targeted. And I'm going to show you guys these here. All right, so that's one of the videos that has been widely circulated showing kind of what's going on over there, which is just, a lot of crap. But the other one that's being circulated about what's going on over there is this one. And it's showing a bunch of smoke piling up down the market streets. Now, if we were to go through, if we were to go through, and I can go through several of these, there's actually pictures from a distance, from afar, that are showing everything that's kind of on fire over in that region. And it's, in my opinion, once we go over here and we take a look at it, you've got a lot of crap that's actually coming out of there. So here is the area that this is being reported at. Let me get this up and just zoom in. If you guys want to find it on Google Maps, just look up the Alstom Power soccer field, all right, when you go in there. And I believe right now what we have is two different things that are on fire. So I'm going to zoom in on that. You guys can see it's right over to the center of Tehran. And it's kind of important for several different reasons. I want to talk to you guys about why this is so significant that this is actually going off. Number one, I want you guys to look at this area right here that I just zoomed in on outside of the actual plant itself. All right. This area right here is where all of that power is going to be pushed out of the facility and distributed about the city. And so if this power plant is getting shut down, and that would be this area right here, that's what I believe this to be. For, again, I haven't lived there. I haven't been there, just from pictures and stuff that I can see. But my understanding on, the studying of these, that is exactly how they work. The other building that appears to be on fire is across the street somewhere, and I'm not really sure where. I got told that it was originally an office that's right over here. Let's see if I can find it. It says corporate office. If we were to click on that, that corporate office that they're claiming is the corporate office for the freaking power plant. And it certainly appears, and you guys are going to see here in just a second, that some of that's on fire. Now they're saying that it's the market that's over there and surrounding it. And unfortunately, there's just not enough good views on the street for us to get it. But as you go through here, you've got a pharmacy and all sorts of crap, restaurants and freaking wholesale or whatever. So it certainly appears like it's a market area. But what I got told was it's the corporate office that's right here that you guys are about to see. Let me get that up here. Now, why do I think that this is pretty significant within itself? Because when we start taking it, there's a better frame of that video. When you start taking a look at it, I mean, it's the office itself that's on fire. It's on the second floor. It's not down below. It's none of that crap. You've got windows that are blown out, the fire raging out the roof, and everything else going on. And so what we saw before the 12-day war was a lot of gas leaks and gas explosions that were taking place. And it was rumored that FPV drones were flying through the windows of these places and blowing them up. All right. It's also rumored that, people were planting explosives, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, if this is the corporate office to the power plant, and at the same time, you also have one of the frickin' cooling towers that's on fire, well, now we have very big signs that sabotage is taking place. And if you guys remember from what I talked to you about yesterday, when you have that resistance movement that's in there, they're going to go through different phases before eventually they end up stepping up and overthrowing the government. And it's just the way the rule book's written. All right. So right now, when you start seeing sabotage operations like this is kind of moving out of sabotage. This is moving more into like pronounced attacks, right? Sabotage, you're not even supposed to know, that it was an attack. It's supposed to look like a mistake. So maybe the cooling tower going off on fire. But when you have the cooling tower in conjunction with a corporate office for that electrical plant, that is a more overt movement showing that there is people, all right, that are rising up against the government. And the next step from here, like from the phase that we're at to the phase that it's going, all right, from one to the other is the war of movement phase. That would be as we're bombing the crap out of them. All right, that's where you see that coup take place and the people in the military rise up and start going after the Iranian government. So if what I think this is true from what I can tell and what I can compile, because information, as you guys know, coming out of Iran is pretty dang limited. However, when I, do my assessments and I take a look at everything that's going on the ground over there, that's the best that I can deduct for you guys. All right. When it goes down to what's actually happening and what it kind of looked like. And you couple that with JD Vance going up over into Azerbaijan, all right, and potentially securing airspace, plus the letter from the Ayatollah. To me, you probably had people within the regime that knew exactly what he was going to be answering back with today, and that they said, no, we don't like this, it's time. and they started to move. And it would make sense in this time to have Bibi and Trump in the exact same location as all of this is going down. Now, typically in the past, Netanyahu will jump on, what the hell do they call it, the wing of Zion, and have that sucker floating around in the air. But it looks like he's taking an additional step, and he's just like, boop, going to America. Why? Because we have the war room. We've got all of that crap that's going on inside the White House. So it is possible that that's why he's going over there. This explosion that I'm about to play on the screen for you guys comes out of Kesham. Let me play that. Let it run another time. One more time. So you guys can hear the faint rapport of that thing. Now that sucker took off way, way over in the distance. And as we, pull up and look at the map for where that place is at, here's Tehran. We're talking about all the way down here in the south. All right. You guys see Bandar Abbas, and then Kesham is right down here. Bandar Abbas, that is the same region where that port was at, is why I think this is significant. This is the same region where the port was at, where we had that massive frickin' accelerant explosion that happened right before the 12-day war that a lot of people forgot about, where you had what appeared to be a chemical spill on the ground. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to sabotage, what appeared to be a chemical spill on the ground that then ignited all of that crap, and the entire frickin' port exploded. It was huge. Hope you guys remember that. Well, this is right outside of that very same location where that explosion just got reported. Ted Lewis coming in, gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Now, gas leaks have been taking part all across Iran, all right, for, the last week and a half, all right? We've been seeing more and more gas leaks that were taking place, but they were all small, and they weren't, it wasn't really that many. We saw the report of the, the radar site being taken out just to the east of Baghdad inside of Iran, over in this general vicinity right here where I'm wiggling it up on the map. If I move it over the middle, right up over here. And then yesterday we hear that Iran has deployed new radar systems, like field mobile radar systems, over kind of like near Basra, basically, in this general vicinity of Iran. So mobility radar systems being put out there. So all of that leading up to this most certainly appears as if there's a war that's about to take place. And the question is, at what time is it going to happen? When are those first shots going to get fired? Now, if I were a betting man, we might not even see bombs drop at this point before we start seeing that uprising and that coup taking place. If you were to overthrow the Iranian regime, what better day to launch a coup than on the 47th anniversary of the regime? Now that, ladies and gentlemen, is set to take place tomorrow. Now, the United States, if that ends up happening, might not necessarily start dropping bombs right away. They might wait. That could very well be why you have Benjamin Netanyahu going over to the White House, because they might know that that coup's coming because it's being launched by our intelligence operations, right? And if that coup gets launched here in the next 24, it could be that the United States sits back and just waits to see how successful it is. It could also be that they go, well, it's very, very successful. We might just be able to help them out here and here while we go through and we continue to bomb these plants. Bombing these uranium enrichment sites, bombing, where their ballistic missiles and all that crap are at. But I got a feeling that if a coup does launch off, the IRGC is going to fire those 1,000 ballistic missiles that they have set up pretty much immediately and start having them run. Which, as I told you guys, the United States has been building up over there inside of the Middle East. This is a report that ended up coming out of the Joint Forces Command headquarters in Tehran just a couple days ago of that building exploding. Somehow I missed this one. This is an example of those gas leaks that I've been telling you guys about that are going on. And so if that cooling tower went off today, and if that office building across the street ended up going up, we are going from operations like this to very, very close to being overt operations that are coming out. That means that like these steps moving forward, along with Iran's response, if they truly did say the ball is in Trump's court, I mean, it's imminent, ladies and gentlemen. We have officially reached that threshold. I think you can reasonably expect sometime in the near future to start seeing some major actions coming out of Iran. Now, here's the crazy part. Those major actions that you see coming out of there, you're probably not going to hear a lot about what's going on. I got a feeling the regime is going to do its absolute best to kind of keep that crap under wraps. Maybe, go after and attack what do you want to call it? Go after and attack the, how do you want to call it? Go after and attack the social media, internet, things like that again, try to shut that down. But I think that's where the bombing operations and everything are going to come in. Talked to you guys about this before as well, but I want to go back over it because it is a very important piece of information, which is the Isfahan nuclear complex has been reinforced by Iran. Original satellite imagery that I ended up getting out of there, was coming out of January. It was like the end of January. I want to say it was like January 24th. Showing that they were beginning to build up and refortify. 2 days ago is how old these images are. They have dug a buttload of dirt out and they have started plugging all of the entrances and covering them up, trying to reinforce Isfahan, which is one of their main frickin', plants that they have over there for the uranium enrichment. And so this, again, do we have a pattern? Yes, we do. We have a pattern of Iran before these talks, reinforcing their sites. We have a pattern of Iran saying we are not going to talk about anything outside of nuclear weapons. Then we have a pattern of Iran allegedly today coming out and stating, Trump, the ball's in your court. That's all we're going to do. And that letter's significant. Oftentimes, Iran is communicating with the United States in writing, which sounds freaking stupid, but that's what they do, right? It's like you're talking to a 3-year-old child, trying to convince them to clean up their room. And they're like, I'm sorry, I hurt you, and sending you an apology letter back. That's what they did. Sealed it off, sent, signed, sealed, delivered. United States is getting different as well. We are beginning to build up. Yesterday or last night, I showed you guys satellite imagery that was coming out of, where was that? That was down in the south. What is the name of that freaking island that the Brits have? Diego Garcia. I showed you guys updated satellite imagery that came out of Diego Garcia. This comes out of an airbase over inside of Jordan. Jordan is where we have stage F-15s. Yep. I think I said F-18s before, where we have F-15s. And those F-15s are likely there, all right, staged in that area in order to chase down any of the cruise missiles and drones that Iran is going to be firing at U.S. forces and at Israel. We did that a lot last time. Adam DLC says, have to imagine China and Russia are giving intel. Correct. So in my mind, yes, China and Russia 1,000% are giving as much intel to Iran as humanly possible. Because if China and Russia lose Iran, they're going to lose a huge money laundering operation. Russia is going to lose a lot of support for its war efforts over inside of Ukraine. China is going to lose a lot of its money laundering via oil. And in addition to that, it's not just like that, but, Iran's proxy forces controlling, the Red Sea and big chunks of the Middle East. Right? This is how Iran's projecting itself all across the Middle East. And so Russia, China, they don't want to let Iran fall, which is pretty crazy because it's Iran, for the love of God. But those two knuckleheads, Iran and China, Xi and frickin' Putin, have decided that this is going to be their way of controlling, the Middle East and stuff, kind of like the U.S. and Israel, I guess, so to speak. Wayne Quigley says, Matt, you need to collaborate with Tusi on Iran at Tusi TV. I've heard that like 1,000 times now. So maybe I will give him a buzz and reach out to him today and see if he wants to collaborate. Why did I say collaborate? Collaborate on the Iran reporting that's going on. I know he focuses on it pretty heavily. Now, this is showing several THAAD launchers that are in position, all right, over inside of Jordan. All right, so if the U.S. is deploying THAAD batteries, we knew that they had the F-15s that they were staging over there. But this updated satellite imagery reported from yesterday, if it does in fact show that we have our THAAD batteries in place over inside of Jordan, then we are continuing to ramp up. This also confirms what I've been telling you guys, all right, that a lot of those heavy lift aircraft were moving these assets into the region, and it takes time to get them over there and get set up. And if you will notice, all right, down in two of these pictures, this one might appear that it has a THAAD system on it. This one does not, all right? So we do have what appears to be some empty pads for these suckers to be out there. And I would have to honestly get somebody that's familiar with these systems, but even then I wouldn't want to give that information away up over here on the show to kind of go over that. Now, let's back it out just a little bit more. It is the Muwafaq Salti Air Base over in Jordan. All right, so this is the air base where those THAAD systems are currently deployed to. I'm going to switch it over to a map that's easier for you guys to see at home to explain to you guys why this is also such a big deal. Up over here in the tri-border region over near Al-Tanf, all right, and it's actually on this side of the border from what I know. All right, from what I know, the U.S. had, all right, U.S. troops that were over there. That's where we lost several U.S. troops, probably like a year and a half ago now, 2 years ago, all right, when we had an Iranian-backed militia that ended up sending a one-way suicide attack drone in there, killing our U.S. service members and wounding others. If we are putting those THAAD systems in there, though, they're there for a reason. And that's because you have an air base. You have an air base that's over there that is housing our fighter jets. And those fighters are going to be running around, and they're going to be, right? They're going to be running around across Iraq and Syria, shooting down whatever cruise missiles or drones that Iran fires. Now, the THAAD systems are likely there not to protect Israel, likely to protect that operation within itself. That also means that those U.S. forces that the United States believes or has intel to believe, right, not just at this location, but at several other locations, that Iran is going to try to take them out. If you think about it, Iran learned a lot from the last attack, all right, from the 12-day war. I'm pretty sure we also had fast movers staged in there as well. And we launched them to go over, and there's video after video I can show you of the United States military chasing these suckers and shooting them down. Before Iran would go to attack Israel, it would be my opinion that Iran, instead of sending ballistic missile after ballistic missile into Israel, they would likely go after this airbase and several others in the region where the U.S. is housing its troops. And they would do it first, despite what Iran's stating, which is they would try to wipe Israel off the map first. If Iran was smart, they would go after U.S. forces because it's going to be our aircraft that are chasing down those cruise missiles and those drones so that they can overwhelm Israel and attack them. That now begins to make a hell of a lot more sense if you're Iran. If we sit back and we think about what it is that Iran learned over the 12-day war, it's that the United States military did a very good job deflecting their attack and shooting down a bunch of freaking military hardware that would have caused and inflicted a lot of damage and a lot of death over inside of Israel and to U.S. military installations in the Middle East. So with that being said, these opening shots of this war that are going to be fired by Iran are likely going to be targeting U.S. forces in the region. And yesterday, the Iranian, I want to say it was the Iranian foreign minister. Can't remember if it was the Iranian foreign minister or the new commander of the IRGC. Israel kills so many of them, I don't even bother keeping up with their dang names anymore. Had stated, right? They, like an Iranian official at the end of the day, had stated that unfortunately they cannot attack the U.S. on our home soil because of how far away we are. So unfortunately, they're going to have to go after, no kidding, unfortunately, they're going to have to go after U.S. troops over in the region. Pretty sketchy. There's also a report that came out yesterday coming out of the UAE that, that multiple B-52s had landed over inside of the UAE. It definitely appears that those reports are false. There was reports of B-52s overnight that actually took off from Guam and went all the way down and flew around Taiwan as a deterrent for Russia. all right, before turning around and returning back. But so far as the Middle East goes, we don't have anything B-52 related, strategic bomber related that has landed over there. The imagery that we ended up getting yesterday out of Diego Garcia, which I should probably show you guys because I know a lot of you guys don't watch every single one of our shows, so I need to bring it up. Give me a second here. The imagery that we ended up coming out of Diego Garcia yesterday didn't really show significant buildups. Right? These are from Chinese satellites reportedly just a few days old. It showed 2 C-130s, right, that were parked out on the runway, but it had 3 KC-135 refueling tankers that were down there. We also have 2 P-8 Poseidons, and those P-8 Poseidons, also known as the sub-hunters, from what we've seen in the past, all right, over in outside of Iran, have been operating and flying over the Gulf of Oman and the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz, going back and forth, flying over those suckers, looking for subs. Now, it would be my belief that they're looking for Russian and or Chinese submarines that are over there in the area, providing intelligence to Iran. That would be my thought process of what they're doing. And that's a very scary thought within itself, because if that's what the United States is doing and they are providing intelligence, will the U.S. actually end up attacking Iran? Yes. Are we going to end up attacking a Russian or Chinese sub that's operating in the region? Probably not. Putin came out last year stating that he had the intelligence that shows that the U.S. was helping with targeting of and programming of our munitions and killing Russian troops over inside of eastern Ukraine. I would view this as kind of one of those tit for tat situations that would be going on behind the scenes. I wouldn't really worry about the U.S. getting in a shootout with a near peer adversary. Sky God's in the house, gifting out 20 Speak the Truth memberships. Thank you very much, sir, for that. Something else that ended up getting spotted is an E-3 Century aircraft flying out of Virginia, taking off to the east. This, ladies and gentlemen, is your, I don't want to say is your smoking gun, but it's kind of your smoking gun. This is your mobile command center, all right, for coordination of all of your different ground forces, all of your different air forces, like all sorts of different crap that just took off and is heading that way. I don't know how long it's going to take for it to get over there. I haven't even looked at the refueling capabilities. I'm pretty sure it has it. All right. This thing is made to just stay in constant rotation up over the sky. This thing can fly from the United States straight over there. End of discussion. I have no doubt about that. But it's made to sit there and just hover over the area. And so now, if we're moving this bad boy into position, that is your smoking gun. If we see this thing enter anywhere near the Middle East today, you can believe that a strike is about to be imminent, that it's on. So our key signs that we're looking for now over the next 24 to 48 hours are going to be the uprisings on the ground and this aircraft. We already know we have plenty of aircraft over in the region. We know that for a fact. Now, it could also be that the president of the United States is, or the vice president that's over in Azerbaijan is asking to stage this sucker over in Azerbaijan. I have no freaking clue if that's what we're going to end up doing. How this operation is going to go down, what's going to end up happening. All right. But what I do know is that that attack appears to be extremely imminent, that Iran is not going to be bending the knee, and that all of this crap is going down while people in the United States are too busy staring, all right, at what's going on our own streets with the ICE protests and all of this other crap that's going on in our country. We're too busy looking at Ilhan Omar. I think we need to let a government kind of sit there and dig into that one for a hot minute. And we need to pay attention to what the hell is going on in the Middle East. Other big news that's coming out is, I believe it was Indonesian troops are also on their way over to Gaza for the next phase of the Gaza peace plan that's looking like it's still going to be a war. Colby McCurdy says, could have sworn you almost called Putin a near-peer queer. I almost did, but I stopped. Randall Bell becoming a true supporter. You guys remember the Palestinians that I showed you yesterday morning that crossed the border from the West Bank into Israel? New information has now came out about those dozens of military-age males that got caught trying to cross the border into Israel. Allegedly, they were planning on going in and doing exactly what I said. Some of them are supposed to be suicide bombers. Some of them are supposed to be linking up with others to gather weapons and equipment and launch mass shootings. Now, with the confirmation that that's come out as well, right, it could mean one of two things. It could either mean A, right, that Iran is controlling these movements because they also fund Hamas. They also work with the Palestinian Authority. It could be that Iran infilled these people up over into Israel preparing to attack. They would want to cause confusion on the ground, and having people like that pushing over into Israel and blowing themselves up and causing a lot of mass shootings at the same time these ballistic missiles are inbound, that would cause a lot of problems. It could also be for what I'm about to tell you about over inside of Gaza. All right, there's multiple reasons and multiple reasons for why they could be coming out. Undoubtedly, the Palestinian Authority is involved, though. Sky God says, I heard we were taking subs and wanted to bless the chat. Hit the like button. Oh, Sky God, thank you very much, brother. Yeah, we're always taking new subscribers, and we're always blessing the chat. So thank you very much, friend. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. This is the mediator for Hamas, all right, in between Hamas and the United States government. I can't stand listening to this man talk. He talks so slow. I'm going to show you what he's saying, and then I'm just going to tell you what he's saying.
حماس أخبرتني بأنهم مستعدين للتفاوض على موضوع نزع السلاح، ولكن نزع السلاح يجب أن يتم بعد ضمانات تضمن أمن الغزيين.
You guys understand now why I'm about to fast forward through his freaking statements? Because it's ridiculous. He's saying that Hamas has not been given any sort of guarantees on their lives whatsoever. That's what he's trying to say. Buttload a real measurement equals 126 to 130 gallons. That's a fact. Thank you very much for that, Ted Lewis, and thank you guys very much, everybody that's blessed the chat today. Hamas is whining and complaining. They have, just like I told you months ago, that one, Trump is delusional, that Bibi is delusional. Well, I think Bibi knew. I think the Israelis know this. Like, Hamas is not going to give in. They're going to continue to make excuse after excuse after excuse onto why they can't do this. He says that Hamas is willing to disarm. And by the way, this is now while international troops are on their way in. Supposedly, with these international troops, it's going to be American general that's in command of these guys that are going in there. But he is saying that Hamas basically hasn't been given any guarantees. And what he's doing is he's twisting the narrative on this subject, because what Hamas was actually told, not that they get to survive, not that they get to do anything, but Hamas gets to get disarmed and get dismantled. And if they get surrendered, we'll figure out what happens to them. They're going to go somewhere else. They're going to get kicked out of the region. Some other country, probably Qatar, probably Egypt, is going to be willing to accept them. So no, Hamas is not going to disarm. More and more bombs have been dropping. He just goes on complaining. There have been no discussions or negotiations about disarmament. Why have there been negotiations with Hamas about this? He's just twisting the narrative and trying to turn it back around on the United States, on Donald Trump, trying to make it appear as if how do I want to say this? Trying to make it appear as if the United States is at fault. Now, to give you guys an idea of the amount of crap that we have sent over into the Middle East, over 150, roughly, C-17s. That's a lot of freaking movement in and about the Middle East. And last night I talked about this because this attack is coming up. It definitely appears as if like we have the majority of THAAD systems that are in place. And in the military, there's a saying, a 90% plan violently executed, or a 70% plan violently executed is better than a 90 or 100% plan poorly executed. So if the United States has 70%, 80% of its coverage in position, it's going to be good to go. The reason, in my opinion, why they might be holding off, and especially when we talk about those different THAAD batteries and stuff like that are deployed, is they only have so many munitions that are on them. And they're going to be set up, in these different regions. But they also have to reload. And that reload window is when they become extremely vulnerable. So if Iran is firing, wave after wave after wave of ballistic missiles, I want you to think about the amount of interceptors that have to be fired to go after and take those suckers down. United States would actually have to stockpile them. Just deploying a battery itself and getting it set up and into position does not mean that it's prepared to be like its defense is fully prepared. They're going to have to estimate how many ballistic missiles Iran's going to be shooting before they can take them out, how many munitions they need stockpiled on the ground in order to counter that, additional countermeasures, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And all that needs scattered out across the Middle East. And these logistical supply flights that are going in there, that's what's actually taking care of that. Battlefield Boys says, so yes or no, is this going to happen tomorrow? Your honest opinion, please. I think it is likely that it could happen tomorrow. I think it is very, very likely that this thing goes down tomorrow. Whether or not it is a big strike by the United States, Israel, the UK, or whether or not it is that final phase of movement where they go from covert action to overt action, and I'm talking about the resistance movement that's on the ground over inside of Iran, is really going to be the question. And I say that because as far as the resistance movement's concerned, we have watched them over the last 2 weeks uptick, just like we have prior to the 12-day war. So prior to the 12-day war, we've seen an uptick in the resistance movement before bombs started dropping. Now we have something completely different. We have at least tens of thousands. All right. I believe a realistic number is somewhere between 30 to 50,000, but people are citing and trying to state that over 100,000 Iranians have been killed. That is a lot of blood that's been shed. And you have buildings, you have key figures that appear to be getting taken out yet again. Now, the amount of quote unquote gas leaks aren't nearly as significant. But to me, what's significant, like I said, is, these different locations. All right. When we look at what they took out, which maybe I, didn't bring this up, and I talked about this online in a couple like pro-Iranian spaces. If I want to weaken government forces, all right, and I don't feel like I am yet strong enough or yet prepared, one of the things that I want to start doing is taking out key infrastructure. All right. And that includes the electrical grid. That includes railways. That includes communications. That includes those radar systems, things like that. I want to start taking that out. Now, obviously, Iran is going to have redundant systems at some of its more important locations, but it's probably not going to have those redundant systems everywhere. So if what they actually did was took out this power plant and destroyed the office, which I believe is correct, of this particular site, that's going to create a lot of darkness over inside of Iran. Now, the question is how much of that plant actually got destroyed? Because right now what they're stating is it's just one reactor or one cooling tower, and that it might be in danger of meltdown. And oddly enough, information came out yesterday, and they didn't have a particular power plant, but I did see it yesterday that Iran was going to be, waving a false flag attack today. Or people were trying to say Iran was going to have a false flag attack on one of its power plants. Now we have this. I don't know necessarily if that's true. Jay Wad says, Matt, thank you. You are my number one news source. Been here since Rob and Ukraine. We need more people like you. Remember, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Yes, sir. And, I've got this bad habit of just spitting, information. I always just jump in there, just spit information. Sky God says, talking subs, I'll get back into my lane. I am so confused, Sky God. I love you to death, though, brother. I do. Man. So, yeah. If we ended up knocking out this station here, that would be pretty significant. When we go back and we look at the videos of it, excuse me, I want to find the appropriate video. This is the one I think I was looking for. When we go back and we look at the video of it and kind of where it's at, I want to pause it. All right, you see this huge open space. So you see a fire that appears to be originating out of one particular location right here. Doesn't appear like it's the same one from the building. All right. But you see that fire that's originating, and then it's scattering over what appears to be an open field. And this video is from across the street. Spent a lot of time trying to geolocate that for a very particular reason. This is more significant, I think, than a lot of people even realize, depending on where that video was taken from. If that fire was in fact within a reactor, we have like a reactor fire, but it scatters across an open field. The significant thing to me is whether or not some of this equipment was also damaged. All right. And nobody has noticed it and or reported on it yet. Believe it or not, this equipment is very difficult to replace, all of this stuff that's out here. And I won't get into the specifics of it because I don't want to turn, people into terrorists over in the United States of America. But there is very particular equipment that's out here in this area that's up on your screen, that big open area where you have that electricity that's flowing through. All right. And if that equipment's actually damaged, you can shut down one reactor or one cooling tower and still have the other plant running in some sort of limited capacity. But all of that capacity goes through this location right here. And if this location was actually damaged, not the cooling tower, but this location was damaged, that to me is a much more intelligence-driven operation than just sabotage over inside of one of the reactors that they could simply shut down, contain, and continue to move power. Damaging this area, all right, damaging this area would have a much more significant impact on Iran itself. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I'm looking at this and trying to identify specifically what's going on out there. Ryan Graham says, will the strikes on Iran take another week or two, or will it be months like Venezuela and Iraq? Ryan, excellent question. The answer is, I don't know. I do believe that the United States was telling the truth when it came down to Maduro, saying that it was a triggers-based operation. I believe it was Marco Rubio that stated, it was triggers-based. So they didn't brief, they got asked why they didn't brief Congress beforehand. The obvious answer to me is because they were afraid of those leaks getting out and Maduro getting put on the run. In this case, I think it's going to be the exact same thing. All right, we have key players that we're going to want to take out. And those key players, again, it's going to be trigger based and it's going to be based on intel. So the way I would describe it is, it would be impossible, I think, for us to have good intel on the location of everybody over inside of Iran. And they learned their lesson during the last 12-day war, because the United States started figuring out, how we were targeting, and then Iran figured out how we were targeting them. And they've changed. So we're going to have a different style of targeting, and I'll leave it at that. With that being said, we've got, let's say, a dozen key figures, and we know it's going to be way more than a dozen. Let's say we got a dozen key figures that we're after, and you're going to have intel assets that are on the ground reporting on where these people are at, reporting on future movements, etc. And so it's on the coordinating efforts that be between Israel, the United States, between the CIA and Mossad to sit there and try to figure out when is the best time frame for the most bang for our buck. Obviously, they're going to have their must-hit list and they're going to work their way down, but they're going to have to sit there and coordinate between these different intel agencies with their different, agents that are and assets that are on the ground and go, where are they located and when can we actually strike to get the most bang for our buck and hope to get more in the future. And so me predicting and saying, listen, it's going to take place tomorrow at noon, I don't think is one, a correct thing for me to do. But also I don't think it's an honest opinion either. I think the powers that be don't even know when those bombs are going to drop. So if it is going down tomorrow, what you're going to have is you're going to have crews that are basically on alert to launch, right? You're going to have aircraft, you're going to have flight crews, you're going to have everybody that's just sitting there on standby mode, waiting to be given the orders. Joey Wade says, slow is smooth, smooth is fast was not about you speaking. I was referring to the attack. It cannot be rushed. And you are correct. Thank you very much for that. There's another point that I try to make, all right, is that when it comes down to these operations, all right, you get one shot. All right, if one of these cells gets located, if one of these resistance movements, if one of these groups gets located and called out by Iran, caught by Iran, then it might blow the entire operation. So the entire thing can't be rushed, and it's very well coordinated. And the worst part is we're very likely coordinating it with a different country's intel assets that are on the ground as well. So you're going to have a lag, right, that's going back and forth. And I know a lot of Iranians are pissed and they're being like, hey, our people have been getting slaughtered. Here's the deal. If this thing is screwed up, and this is what's going to be weighing on the president's mind, if this thing is screwed up and it's not successful, how many more people are going to end up getting slaughtered? If it's not successful, it has to be done right. Simply bombing the regime is not going to stop them from killing their own people. You have to have things in place in order to make things hit and hit correct. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, with that, I bid you adieu. It is going to be an interesting day. All right. Make sure that you are subscribed to the channel and make sure your notification bells are turned on. Make sure that even if you've been subscribed for a while and you haven't been getting notifications, unsubscribe, then resubscribe, then smash the notification bell. That way you guys know when this stuff is going down, because I don't care when it happens, I'm going to be going live and you guys aren't going to want to miss it. And if you guys haven't been here for when we have some of these big attacks that are taking place, I promise you, you're going to want to be. It's been, I don't know, what, 6-8 months since we've covered, large attacks. It seems like they're slowing down underneath the Trump administration. And a lot of people are looking and saying, hey, he's promised no new wars. Well, this is that peace through strength. And most Americans, I don't think, realize how close to economical collapse Russia and China were putting us, which is forcing, in my opinion, the U.S. and the Trump administration to start taking these drastic measures. Because in 3 years, Lord only knows who's going to be in office, and they could let all this crap slide when all of the lights in our houses end up getting turned off, right? So it's very important that this is done and it's done correctly. Ladies and gentlemen, I bid you adieu. Peace, love, happiness, and God bless. I am outie.
21 بهمن ماه خیابان اصلی تهران سر پاساژ رحیمیان آتیش گرفته.